Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we are playing aslidsiksoraksi's red-green Legacy Challenge winning Lands deck. Now, Lands is a deck that has been around for a long time. Back in the day it was known as like 43 Lands deck. We've come down a little bit since then. I think we've got 35-ish lands, but the basic premise is we are a control deck that uses lands to control our opponent's board. So the lands that we're using to do that are things like Wasteland most notably, but Tabernacle in combination with Wasteland can strip away a load of their creatures. We've got Karakas to bounce some creatures, Blast Zone, Bojuka Bog, Boseiju, and we're going to be looping these using Life from the Loam. Nowadays, lands decks have a lot more punch to them than they once did. So a fair while back now, we got Thespian Stage and Dark Depths to allow us to make a 2020 that we can keep recycling over and over again using Life from the Loam until it's good enough to win the game. But now we also have Urza's Saga. This allows us to make some massive creatures and have a few little silver bullets in our deck if we need them, which is something that makes our sideboarding a lot stronger. But in the main deck, we're basically fetching Pithing Needle and Expedition maps. We can also get Mox Diamond because it's a 0-drop. If we need to, we get some more color mana and stuff, we can turn our Urza Saga into a mana source, so it's not a disappearing mana source. Aside from that, our deck is, relatively straightforward. We're running a Punishing Fire build, so this, in combination with Grove of the Burnwillows, allows us to keep removing 2 toughness creatures. We can also start going to face with this, and it's slow. It's like 3 mana to deal 1 damage effectively because of the life gain on it. But over time, when your opponent can't do anything, that's going to win the game. That's kind of like the plan C of how to win the game, but it sometimes happens. Or you can get the last few little bits of damage in, but it's mainly a board control tool. To facilitate this plan, we've got a gamble, which is going to be finding us Life from the Loam. This is old tech that we used to have. Back in the day, we used to play 4 gambles in lands decks. Now we only need the 1, and this is not something you see in every lands build either. But this goes and gets Life from the Loam. If a Life from the Loam goes in the graveyard, it doesn't matter because you get it back. So it's pretty much just a tutor for Life from the Loam. In fact, if you discard it, it's often better anyway, because then you get to dredge it and have more options of what to return. We've got 4 crop rotations to go and find lands at instant speed. Whether that's just going to be more Wastelands or our combo pieces, it's going to be pretty useful. We have 5 ways of putting loads of land into play at once. So Exploration gives us 1 extra land drop a turn, and Manabond lets us dump our entire hand into play as long as they're all lands. So that's pretty sweet too. And that's pretty much the deck, really. We're going to be... Usually the lands decks are quite slow to win games because you're grinding your opponent into the dust. But we do have options of just winning the game when the time is right through Thespian Stage and Dark Depths, and Urza Saga can say take over a game very quickly. We're mainly going to be hiding behind Maze of Ith and Tabernacle here because we don't have anything like a Glacial Chasm, which has sort of fallen out of favour because we're able to deploy threats that we can block with in the form of Urza Saga anyway. A few other tricksy lands that are worth mentioning. Bojuka Bog gives us main deck graveyard hate. We also have a Waterlogged Grove. This gives us access to extra card draw from our Life from Loam, so we can use this to then dredge twice a turn, once in our draw step, once from the Waterlogged Grove. That's pretty nice. The Boseiju can blow some stuff up. The Yavimaya is actually surprisingly useful here because we're trying to cast some green spells, and this can really help us out. It also turns Maze of Ith, Tabernacle and Dark Depths into mana producing lands, which is really handy and could be a big jump in mana to allow us to deploy more things or activate more abilities like Urza Saga or Thespian Stage. And that's pretty much it for the main deck. We have the 1 basic in Forest, which is enough to cast our Boseiju to blow up a Blood Moon or something. Sideboard wise, we've got another relatively new piece of tech in Minsk and Boo. So this is a threat that can just close games. And it's just a very powerful tool that we can board into, especially if we're suspecting that some of our Urza Sagas might not be getting a lot of purchase. We can bring these in. It's just another thing that going unchecked wins the game in about 2 to 3 turns. We've got a bunch more targets for our Urza Saga. We've got Saga Lantern, Haywire Might, Grafdigger's Cave. So a lot of graveyard hate, but also a nice flexible answer to various permanents. We have more graveyard hate in the form of Endurance and Surgical Extraction. We have a 1-off Collector Roof to try and shut down some of these artifact decks a little bit, alongside 2 Force of Vigor. So whilst, only 1 Collector Roof, we do have 3 dedicated anti-artifact type slots. Obviously, Force of Vigor also blows up Blood Moon for us. And Haywire Might is technically another piece of destruction against the artifact decks, which is quite handy. And we have 3 Pyroblasts. Because we've got a load of red mana, we may as well have some Pyroblasts because they're just so good at nailing lots of problematic blue things, especially if we're trying to resolve certain spells. Now, part of why our deck is useful is because we can just play lands, and our lands are good, so counter magic struggles to interact with us. That's pretty much the deck. So like I said, this just won the Legacy Challenge this weekend just gone. Haven't played lands for a while. I used to play lands back in the day. To give you an impression of when I used to play lands, I think I bought my Tabernacle for £150 of a mint condition English one. And I think I sold it for about £1,900. So it's now probably double that. So it's been a little while since I've played lands. I think I played it once before on the channel though. So I'm a little bit rusty, but hopefully sort of the old play patterns will come back to me. Alright, let's jump into a league with this. Like, comment, subscribe if you're there, and maybe check out the Patreon in the link below if you've got some time as well. But let's play some Legacy. This is a perfectly serviceable hand. We've got a way of dealing with creatures, a way of messing with our opponent's mana base. We've got the Life from the Loam engine and exploration setup. This is pretty much exactly what we're looking for in an opening hand. We've got a Windswept Heath. What's our opponent going for here? A Veteran Explorer. Okay, sure. Wasteland might not be the most useful here, but the Maze of Ith should be relatively good. If they're on the Planeswalker build, that could be a little bit awkward for us. So, I think we want to start off with Mox Diamond here. We've already said that Wasteland is going to be less useful against this basic mana base, but we can go and get it back in a second. And then we will play this. We're about to get a basic land off of this, so I'm going to go and get a Taiga instead. We can cast Exploration here. Deploy this. Cast Life from the Loam, targeting 2 lands. Colourless on this and green on this. Not a bad turn. We have a lot of permanents in play. Now we can start dredging our Life from the Loam. If our opponent's on the build of this that is using it to push out Erector into either big planeswalkers or some broken enchantments, then we could be in trouble. Alright, here goes nothing. We get our 1 basic land off of this, our opponent's going to get 2. Alright, so they have white mana, so they probably are on the Erector build, especially with Diabolic Intent. Let's see what they find. A Sylvan Library. Okay, that's not so scary. So we will be dredging Life from the Loam. Thespian stage, relatively useful. We've got another Life from the Loam in there. This Wasteland, not doing us a lot of work. We have 1 Taiga left in our deck. We'll play this out. We'll go and fetch our Taiga now. We want to keep open a crop rotation here. We'll cast this Taiga Thespian stage, Wooded Foothills for this mana. We'll deploy our Thespian stage. And then we can turn this into... Wait, if I... Yeah, so we turn this into Dark Depths. And then we have 2 mana to make the guy. So we've got an end of turn 2020 against our opponent. So hopefully we don't die this turn. We have an emergency crop rotation if that's a thing we require. We don't have anything like a Sajury step. Our plan to beat this, to beat removal on our 2020, is to just keep making them via Life from the Loam. We're not trying to protect it. We're just trying to force it through by doing it again and again and again. I don't know if our opponent knows it, but they have to try and win the game this turn. Academy Rector. Okay. They don't seem to have a way of sacrificing this immediately, which is good for us. Let's crop rotate away our Taiga. Doesn't really matter which one we get in here. We get the Dark Depths. Make it 2020. As I like to do very often on this channel. So Solitude is something that can beat us here. We will dredge Life from the Loam. Attacks. Kapow. Alright, we got the first one in there. So this build of lands we're playing, it has 4 Dark Depths, which is somewhat unusual for lands decks. And obviously did the person who's playing this deck very well because they won the challenge with it. So our opponent needs their things to go into the graveyard to get the trigger. So graveyard removal is going to be very useful here. The Graphics Cage, not so much, but these things are fine. Academy Rector means that we're probably going to want this Haywire Might and possibly these Force of Vigors. These are all things I'm considering playing. Minsc and Boo certainly has some use as well. Not convinced Punishing Fire is actually going to be very helpful in this matchup because you don't really want to be killing their little guys. So I think we're probably trimming those for now. Our graveyard is also somewhat under duress, I would imagine. So we need to keep that in mind. Do I think Blaststone is going to be particularly useful here? I'm not sure it is. Karakas might be though. Tabernacle. What are they fetching? It's usually like curses and things, like the big one that domes all of our stuff. I don't think we're going to need Tabernacle here. Boseiju, definitely we want that. Maze of Ith. I think we can trim on Maze of Ith at the very least. Got 2 more cuts to find. We don't really want to cut our central engines here. Pithing Needle. We haven't seen anything that particularly warrants Pithing Needle. We have 1 more cut. Maybe we're just trimming on a Maze of Ith. We can always go and tutor for it if we need it. Bojuka Bog exiles the Rector with their ability on the stack, so they don't get it. Because it has to be in the graveyard for them to remove once the trigger resolves. So if we can just get rid of that, we should be A-okay. Dorm, Minsk and Booze, I don't think so. Let's just submit like this and have a jolly good time. We have an answer to some sort of disruption for our mana base if they have it. We also have an answer if things go wrong and they manage to get an enchantment in play. We also have a Saga Lantern with the ability to play Urza Saga game from turn 2 onwards. This feels like a pretty strong hand. We're going to keep this exploration back for the Force of Vigor. Let's see how our opponent wants to begin this game. They could Cabal Therapios, which would be a little bit annoying, but doesn't look like that's what's happening. Our opponent hasn't. Our opponent with Veteran Explorer means we're incentivized to get Taiga here. So we'll play out this exploration. Play this Urza Saga. We will need some more mana. We need 1 more land to make our Saga work next turn. But our deck is mostly lands, so I have some faith that we can do that. Some of our lands don't produce mana, like this Maze of Ith, for example. But we don't need to get maximum value out of our Sagas necessarily, because we're going to be rebuying them. A Sylvan Library? Sure. Do I want to blow up a Sylvan Library right now? I don't think so. A Manabond. That's not actually the land we're looking for there, is it? Okay, so we are on making our own Sylvan Library here. And we'll drop this Maze of Ith, and we'll pass. So our opponent gets the first look with a library. It's pretty strong. We have both Manabond and Exploration here. We don't really need 2 of these. There's a bit of a dead draw. They put 1 card on top with Sylvan Library. You're going to put another one. They kept a card and paid 4 life. So they can shuffle away the card they didn't want with their fetch land. A Cabal Therapy. How incentivized am I here? I think we do this now. It's not incredible, but it'll do. And we'll get rid of this Manabond. It's unlikely that they name Force of Vigor, but we don't need to get hit by it. Let's see what they name here. Crop Rotation, probably, would be my guess. Yeah, there's a Crop Rotation name. So we've shown exactly what we have to our opponent. Let's get some Sylvan Library goodness. Alright, we don't really want these cards. We will be shuffling with the Urza Saga in a second. So we'll put this one on top of our library and this one on top of our library. And I suppose we tap this for mana. We let this go. And I think we're going to get ourselves an expedition map here. And then we can drop our first land drop for the turn. We can activate this using the Grove mana. Get ourselves another. What land am I interested in here? I think it's just an Urza Saga. Just keep that train rolling. This time we can actually start activating it. Let's play this one. They know we've got this exploration in hand. I think we're just supposed to cast it. Makes us slightly worse if our opponent's got some sort of Pernicious Deed, Blast Zone type affair. But they have got a Cabal Therapy sitting there. And if they find a Veteran Explorer, they're going to want to sacrifice it anyway. So we may as well get the extra card. In case we find Life from Loam, we can deploy multiple lands in a turn. A Dryad Arbor. That's not very exciting. That means they can't cast a 4-drop this turn. Diabolic Intent. Sure. Pretty cool. So our Urza Saga is going to tick up this turn. I'm going to draw a Haywire Might. I'm going to use Sylvan Library's ability. We're going to keep all of these. This ticks up. I think we want to keep the Boseiju in hand and probably deploy this Dark Depths. The issue with keeping the Boseiju in hand is that we can't deploy the Yavimaya. They both do very similar things. But if they have the humility enchantment, overwhelming splendor, overwhelming something, then it means that this won't be able to blow it up. So I think we have to keep this in the Boseiju in hand rather than deploy it here. And we're just going to pass and make an Urza Saga token on our opponent's turn. And we can go get another expedition map if we want to and just keep running this train back. Although we might as well get ourselves a Thespian stage here. So we can at least threaten the 2020. There's a Karakas. We're not going to do that now. Pernicious Deed. Right, so our opponent can blow this for 1 if they wish. This does hit our Urza Saga as well, which is pretty strong. So if we activate our Urza Saga, we don't get to draw a card of our Saga land when they pop this for 1. So we're not actually supposed to activate this just yet, I don't think. Which is really annoying. Right, so we have a crop rotation. Let's use Sylvan Library's ability. I don't think we're paying for all of these, are we? We'll put this one on top of... Actually, I kind of want to keep this one. Put this one on top of the library. And we will put this on top of the library too, for now. Is there any point in this? Not really. Let's... They have a Pernicious Deed that we have to respect here. They know we can get Pithing Needle. Alright, so we will draw a card. And I think we crop rotate this land that's about to die. We can't get another Urza Saga here because that will end very poorly for us. So I think we're just getting a Wasteland and getting rid of this Karakas our opponent has. And this will resolve. We'll lose both our explorations, sadly. But then we get to crack the Urza Saga. Go and find ourselves an expedition map, I think. Then we Wasteland the Karakas out of here. Then we drop the Bojuka Bog. This gets rid of our opponent's ability to Cabal Therapy immediately. And that's it for our turn, I think. We could deploy this Yavimaya actually. I don't hate that as a strategy. Let's do that. They could have another deed. That would be pretty annoying. But I think we're okay. Now we're representing a 2020 on board in the very near future. Now we've got the Sylvan Library coming in soon. Getting us some more cards. We've got a decent chunk of life to pay. Alright, there it is. A Wasteland, sure. Let's see what the rest of our library holds. Okay, we need to keep the Boseiju. Do we need to grow with the Burnwillows? How much life do I want to pay is basically the question here. Is the Wasteland important to me right now? Taking our opponent off of that scrubland. Right, let's do some maths. So, we have 2 mana here, which can turn this into a land we want, like a Thespian stage which you can play. And then we can deploy our Mox Diamond. Then what? I think I'm going to put Grove on top. And so we need to keep green mana open this turn as well. So I think we're going to pay 4 life for this one. And these two... Yep, so we'll crack this expedition map now for our Thespian stage. We'll deploy our Thespian stage. And this gives us mana to activate the Boseiju. The question is, do I want an additional Mox Diamond right now? I think I do. This allows us to activate Yavimaya and channel Boseiju. It costs us this Wasteland, but I don't think that's the issue here. This also means we have enough mana to activate Thespian stage if we need to. So that seems quite strong to me. So our opponent goes for it. We have 2 answers for whatever enchantment they find. Now this one might not be able to answer it, to be fair, if it's the one that makes all our creatures do nothing. But this will definitely answer it. We might be about to gain 20 life instead. Alright, they're attacking with the Rector. I'll take our 1 point damage. See what the damage is here. A Vampire Hex Mage. Okay. Yeah, I think I'll just make the guy. Our opponent can source the plowshares this, but if they don't, we're doing okay. And by okay, I mean our opponent dies. We'll put these two on top of our library for now. Jam this and go to attacks. Am I getting 20 life here? Or was our opponent dead? Our opponent is dead. Alright. We got the 2-0 there. Our opponent's deck felt like it wasn't really firing on all cylinders there. But we had a lot of really good tools to use, as is how lands usually works. Alright, let's go to round 2. We're on the play for round 2. We have a turn 2 Marit Lage off of this hand. That seems like a thing I'd like to do. Let's keep this. Turns out we were turbo depths all along. 5 cards. Alright, so we definitely want to have access to our crop rotation to mess with potential graveyard shenanigans. Because a lot of the decks that mulligan hard are graveyard centric. But we do get to spill out a lot of our hand here. We can potentially play 4 cards from our hand in turn 1. Let's go for this Yavimaya. Oh, not this one. The Exploration. Like if our opponent is a Force of Will deck and they're going to start the game with 3 cards, I can probably live with that. Wow. Alright. We don't get to play our second land here. We do have a turn 3 win, so that's something. Or a turn 3 Marit Lage. Our opponent's on not a lot of cards over there. And we'll play at this Thespian stage. We can hold up crop rotation for any problems we may find ourselves in. And if our crop rotation fails, we do have Life and Loam to carry right on. A Mox Diamond. I like this. This allows us to play around days. So we'll play this one. We'll bin off this Maze. We'll play this Waterlogged Grove. And we will pass the turn. Now, opponent's end step, we can crop rotate. We've already seen Force of Negation, so we should definitely be trying to do it in our opponent's turn. Opponent's got 3 cards in hand. We will add green, crop rotate this away. Got counter spell. They can hard cast a Force of Negation, to be fair. But I'd rather they do that on our crop rotation than our life and loam. Obviously, if this works, we can potentially win the game. But against what appears to be possibly a slightly grindy blue matchup, they might have just mulliganed too much to not have a threat. Right, Tundra, yes. Our opponent's probably on the sort of grindy blue deck plan, which means... Right, so Force of Will, Snapcaster Mage. Sure, our opponent's got 1 card left. They're going to have a bad time here. Maze of Ith, Waterlogged Grove. We'll use these 2, because that way we can hold up Punishing Fire if we want to. Let's put this into play. Do we want a Maze of Ith, or do we want a Mox Diamond? I think we'll hold on to that for a turn. We don't need the mana right now. We've got Punishing Fire or drawing a card, so we don't need to Punishing Fire just then. Stretch this. Find a Blast Zone. It's not really what we're after, but actually we'll cancel that first. We will draw a card off of our Waterlogged Grove. Alright, then we will highlight these 2. And we'll deploy a win condition. Do we need this Mox Diamond now? I think we might as well have it here. And we'll pitch this Blast Zone for now. We can always get it back in a minute. This means that we have more artifacts in play and we can cast a Punishing Fire if our opponent flashes in like a fairy, like the Fairy Mastermind, and tries to do some stuff with it that way. We also have seen Snapcaster Mage, so just having a way of making sure the board's clear and we're being mana efficient seems like a safe bet here. Staff of the Storyteller, sure. We'll clean up the token there because we might as well. Although, if our opponent's a Stoneforge Mystic deck, we don't really want to clean that token up actually, do we? We'd rather save this for a Stoneforge, so I don't think we will do that. We just keep dredging life from Loam. We'll pop our graveyard out now. It's getting a lot of stuff going on over there. Right, let's a Blast Zone and a Taiga. And I think we are playing the Blast Zone here, so we can build it up to take out the Staff of the Storyteller. So I'm going to make some guys here. Also, if we get the Expedition map, that means we get the Dark Depths token. And our opponent just has to keep trying to beat that over and over again. Can't imagine they have a lot of Graveyard Hate main deck. There's a Saga from our opponent. Sure. our Saga is ahead of theirs. We're going to take one here from the token. Yeah. Create this. And over to us. I will dredge knife from the Loam. We found a Wasteland. Excellent. We will make another token here. Dress down is unlikely to be in our opponent's deck, but it's not impossible. So we can put this on Staff of the Storyteller if we wish. Or we can go and get the Expedition map. I think I'm just going to put this on Staff of the Storyteller. And then we'll get back our Wasteland and our Urza Saga. This one might be worth countering for our opponent. Right. Play this Wasteland. We'll take out their Urza Saga before I can do anything. We'll go to attacks. Alright, our opponent's had enough of that one. So we're sort of like a dirty Jeskai control deck. So these Pyroblasts are probably going to be useful. Our opponent had Staff of Storyteller and Urza Saga, so I'm certainly interested in Force of Vigor. Grafdigger's Cage can answer Snapcaster Mage like forever, and Minsk and Boo is something that they have to respect, and it will just kill them. Collector Roof can mess with their stuff, but I'm not big into that. Also, even Endurance is playable here too, so we have a lot of options that we can utilise. Is our opponent going to be giving us any Karakas targets? I don't believe so, so we can take that one out. This isn't really going to be a Maze of Ith matchup, so I think we can at least trim one of those. Bojuka Bog will be useful, Blaststone will be useful, Boseiju will be useful. Tabernacle, our opponent's going to have a decent amount of mana. Are we supposed to get rid of the Tabernacle here? I think so. Alright. Crop rotation's kind of awkward against blue decks, so maybe we can trim those. And that leaves us looking for one more card. Our opponent hasn't really shown us a great deal of good punishing fire targets, actually. But they might have Stoneforge is the only thing. I guess we'll keep 2 in and see. Alright. This makes sense to me what we've done here. Oh, hello. Double Pyroblast against the blue deck. Yes, I will keep this. We have their first Urza Saga answered as well. Right, a Minsk and Boo. I don't think we're doing Dark Depth stuff just yet. That's not really what this game's going to be about. Let's see a Mox Diamond. The problem with Mox Diamond here is that our opponent can Prismatic Ending it away, which I'm not a massive fan of. Play this Wasteland and try and represent a turn 2 Minsk and Boo. I don't think we're just going to jam this out. We kind of want to do it with Pyroblast backup. There is a land we can hit with our Wasteland if we're so inclined. There's no point doing it now, because if our opponent wants mana from it, they can get mana from it like this. So we may as well wait till our turn. There is a Prismatic Ending. Unfortunately, we can't do much about that. We've drawn another Exploration. Okay. We'll do that. Now, we're in a bit of a bind here. Are we supposed to Wasteland this Tundra? I think we are. Our deck is full of mana sources, right? So let's just draw some mana sources. Opponent's going to have more land than us in a second. Because we missed our land drop, our opponent might Prismatic Ending our Mox Diamond. That's what we have here. This could be the Staff, which is not something we can Pyroblast. They got a blue source though. It is still the Staff, sure. Opponent's got 4 cards in hand. I don't think our opponent is a back to basics style deck here. A Wasteland. A little bit late. But I think we will continue the plan here. He's looking to draw life from the Loam here. Although we might wait a turn and try and Pyroblast. Because if they have something like Force of Negation, that's really bad for us. Right, so trying to draw to find land. Did they hit? They haven't cast any pondery type stuff yet. Alright, so they got an Urza Saga. That's pretty useful if they can find an additional land next turn. They can crank out tokens which also power out their storyteller stuff. So we are behind here. Okay, we have a Wooded Foothills. Does our opponent find a land this turn? That's kind of the big question. They did have a land. Alright. Our opponent's very far ahead right now. Let's get bashed by the Spirit Token. And again, we can't just play out this Minsk and Boo when our opponent hasn't wanted to counterspell anything yet. Oh, this is so awkward. We have this Wasteland. I think we are supposed to Wasteland the Saga. We just can't let them get double tokens out of it. It represents so many cards. They will get 1 token here. We need to get our Life from the Loam engine going. Yep, we make a token. They pump their staff. There's no reason for us to crack this Wooded Foothills yet. Like, the 1 point of life may end up relevant, and we might just be able to use the Yavimaya to get mana off of this. We just don't know. And we want to draw lands anyway, so the 0.0 something % chance of thinning is irrelevant here as well. I think we do Pyroblast this. I got so many cards in hand though. This is a very aggressive one to... I think we'll Pyroblast this. Now, if I lose this game with Pyroblast sitting in my hand, I'm going to feel pretty bad. Brainstorm is a pretty good card. Like, they've got a decent number of raw cards, but they don't have necessarily the cards they want, and Brainstorm can turn those raw cards into the best cards. A Mox Diamond, that really doesn't help us here. We need a Life from the Loam. There's a Volcanic Island. There's another staff. This game is certainly getting towards being over, that's for sure. They only have one white source right now, which is helping us out a little bit. Otherwise, we'd be buried under a million cards. Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth. Are we supposed to jam this? So, let's think. If our opponent isn't playing the cards from their hand, what are they? They're either white spells, and they don't have enough white mana for it, or they're counter spells. I think... Can we wait another turn? 3, 4, 5. Play this. Because we've got the Mox Diamond as well, any land, even the colourless ones, do make the mana for us. I think we're supposed to wait and try and resolve this with a Pyroblast backup. It means we take an extra hit here. But if this Minsc doesn't resolve, and our opponent... I really want to hit this Ponder, but I think we just need to save the Pyroblast for making sure our Minsc can come through. Because that's all we've got going on in our hand. If this Minsc doesn't hit play, we can't do anything on the board. Now, they do have a Karakas here, right? Which is a very real issue for us. Maybe we were supposed to play it last turn and just use it as a cantrip, but that feels pretty bad. Alright, so they're tapping their Karakas down. Because they don't expect the Minsc. It's a Fairy Time Raveler. Let's say no to the Fairy Time Raveler. Because our Pyroblast doesn't do anything if that guy's in play anyway. Opponent's got 3 cards in hand. I think we have to jam this turn. Let's see what we draw. Anything useful? That is a pretty useful one. I would rather they burn a... Oh, how much time do we have? 3, 4, 5, yeah. So that... Do you remember ages ago I said the life point from this might matter? This is exactly the situation it is. You shouldn't just be cracking to thin all the time. I think that's a mistake a lot of people make because the marginal thinning is very bad and the life point is actually a very tangible thing right there and then. Right, so we have this guy. We'll make its ability. We know this guy isn't really going to be doing anything because I have a Karakas. So what we're going to do here is we're going to... Oh, we should have attacked for 1. I messed that up slightly. So we're going to sacrifice this. We're going to kill one of their guys. And draw a card. A Blast Zone. We can't remove the counters from Blast Zone, but we can up it until we get rid of our opponent's stuff to store each other. So hopefully our opponent will waste 1 damage at least on this Minsc. But they might just ignore it because we have Karakas to beat over there. We can get Wasteland back though next turn. And then Wasteland the Karakas. And then our Minsc can actually do stuff. So they might ignore it at their own peril a little bit. I think the smart thing to do is just to hit the Minsc and then hit us with the Construct. Yeah, that's what our opponent is doing. So we lose the Minsc here. I think it's a little bit too late on this Life from the Loam. Manabond. We get some Dark Depths back in there. That doesn't really go anywhere. Has it got counters on it? Nah, we're done there. Let's go to the 3rd game. Alright, so we've seen a bit more from our opponent. Do we want to change anything? I don't think so here. Haywire might maybe to blow up the thingies. Maybe the Minsc isn't where we want to be here because of the Karakas. Like, we do have a lot of ways of killing Karakas, to be fair. And if we haven't got crop rotation, we do need some business spells. So maybe that's fine. Punishing Fire. I still don't think that's very good. Right, let's have this Minsc. We can hit Planeswalkers is the only thing that Punishing Fire does do. which isn't nothing. Pyroblast will hit the Teferi. If they've got Wandering Emperor, which they probably do, then maybe we do want Punishing Fires. Maybe I'd rather have Punishing Fire in the Grafdigger's Cage here. Alright, let's try it like this. Prismatic Ending on Mox Diamond is a bit awkward. Maybe we should trim one of those. What does our hand do? It does a lot of good stuff here. We will keep this one. We will not play the Mox Diamond on turn 1. Because we don't want it to get Prismatic Ending. We need the mana on our second turn cycle. Alternatively, we can play it and immediately cast a Life from Loam. Those are our two choices. We either play Saga Expedition Map and then go to our turn and do the Mox Diamond. If our opponent's got a Force of Negation, that's going to be really annoying on our Life from Loam. I think I prefer the Prismatic Ending, the Expedition Map line here. It's another artifact for our guy. Next turn we can play the Mox Diamond, pitching the Blast Zone and deploy our guy. Right, this is probably going to get a basic unless they really need 2 colours here. Right, there's a basic, sure. And a Ponder. Island Ponder, the classic. So next turn we start making Urza Saga construct tokens. And hopefully that's going to be good. They might be tempted to force this Mox Diamond to stop us making the constructs. I think we'll play our Taiga here. And play this Mox. There we go. There's the Force of Negation on the Mox Diamond. If we Pyroblast this, what happens? We get the Mox Diamond, but we won't have enough mana to activate our Urza Saga anyway. And what do they pitch as well? A Snapcaster. I think we let this go, and we hold up Expedition Map here. And Pyroblast in case something weird and horrible happens. Wait, did we forget to make our... No, we made our Taiga first, didn't we? So we could Pyroblast if... Yeah. Alright. So there's a Ponder. I don't think we're Pyroblasting this. Our opponent's just casting this first, so they have maximum information before choosing their land drop. Now, there is a possibility they're looking for that land drop, but I think this Pyroblast is going to have a higher use against something like a Teferi or forcing through something exciting, like this Life from the Loam. Let's crack this. We're going to go and get ourselves... I think we're just going to get another Urza Saga here. Just going to tick down. Tap this for mana. Then we get a Mox Diamond here. Pitch this Blast Zone. Play our Urza Saga. Cast this Life from Loam, Taiga and Blast Zone as a Saga. And we have a Pyroblast to counter their spell. Oh, we've still got one floating. We can cast a library in a second if they don't make us Pyroblast. Surgical Extraction on that. That's not one we get to tussle with here, is it? Okay. They're going to see this Pyroblast as well, which is a little bit annoying. But we still have an Urza Saga in play. So we can just loot this one Urza Saga if we need to. Let's Blast them back. And cast this library. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Snapcaster Mage getting back the Surgical and getting rid of our Life from the Loam. Which is why the Sylvan Library is good to jam here. This means we're going to have something we can use to pull ahead still. Our opponent's not making it easy for us. But that's kind of their job, isn't it? Alright, it's our opponent's turn. What are they going for here? They could Prismatic Ending our library. That's annoying. Alright, there we go. They're doing that, which means that hopefully our Life from the Loam is not getting surgically extracted. Goes up to 2 counters, that's fine. I guess we play this Blast Zone. We don't need to Life from the Loam this turn. We want to make our construct hold up Pyroblast. A Ponder. So our opponent's only blue spell at the turn, perhaps. I think we are going to hit this Ponder. If they play land Teferi, that's annoying, but we can still make a guy and attack the Teferi. A Staff. Okay, that's not that problematic for us. But it certainly can be down the line, don't get me wrong. Let's make a guy. Let's make a guy. Where's our Pithing Needle? We took the Pithing Needle out, didn't we? We'll get the Haywire Might here, though. And we will play our Wasteland here. We go to attacks. So they're always going to get this first card off of the staff here. Now, if they have another staff, that's really annoying. But I think the correct thing here for us to do is get this Life from the Loam going again. Now, we're trying to beat the one card in our opponent's hand, the one card inside their staff. Alright. So this felt like the safest spot to get through something like a Force of Negation, which is not what we want to hit our Life from the Loam. That's more important than our opponent getting one more card off of a staff. By if they play a staff this turn and activate the other staff. There's a Saga. We have a Wasteland in play. We also have a Haywire Mine which can blow up too. I like our spot at the moment. We have a lot of things our opponent needs to do. And they're probably not running Dress Down in there as a Saga deck. A Pithing Needle. This can name Wasteland. Yep, it's named Wasteland. Sure. Can they kill the Haywire Mine with the last card in hand? They can. Okay. Yeah, we'll dredge that. Okay, so we want the Urza Saga in play, so let's play that now. Our opponent has no cards in hand. So we blow up the Blast Zone here. 1, 2, 3. This will take out the Needle. And we take out the Saga. Then our opponent is down to 0 cards in hand, an empty staff, and they're facing down some relatively decent sized creatures that are certainly going to get larger next turn. So they take 6 this turn, they take 8 next turn, more if we can find an artifact. So Mox Diamond wins us the game off the top. Pretty happy with our spot. Alright, they are content that we've got that one. Alright, so the second game was a bit tricky. We kind of didn't really get going. But as you can see, any game where you get to start casting Life from the Loam is just real good. And we baited our opponent quite well early on, where we had the Mox Diamond to represent activating our Urza Saga early on. So they burnt their Force of Negation on the Mox Diamond, which was exactly what we wanted them to do, because it meant that our Life from the Loam wasn't getting Force of Negation. Imagine this game if our Life from the Loam got Force of Negation. Now, we might have just been Pyroblasting that to make it go through anyway, but this game, if this got exiled because of that, that'd be game over. So, yeah, pretty happy with that one. Let's go to round 3. Alright, we've got Life from the Loams coming out of our ears. Let's keep this. I've played against this person a few times. I can't remember what they played last time I played them though. I played quite a lot of Legacy, as you probably guessed. So, let's go for this Mox Diamond. Pitch this. I think we are supposed to Life from the Loam. If they're Reanimator of some description, like they've already got a whole bunch of cards in hand, so we're unlikely to resolve a useful crop rotation anyway. So I think we just need to do our thing here and accept that we might get blown out by Reanimator here. If they're a 7-card Reanimator deck, they're going to discard our crop rotation before they go off anyway. Alright. This does not look like Reanimator. That's good. A basic island into Ponder. Another one of these dirty blue matchups, perhaps. They're going to struggle to beat this Life from the Loam, I suspect. Yep, I'll take this nice draw 3. We don't really care if they daze this. But we really want to play this Urza Saga this turn, so let's see if that works. It works, alright. The one downside of playing the Urza Saga is we don't have access to our crop rotation. But we have an Urza Saga, which is a pretty good Magic the Gathering card. Against dirty blue decks, you just want to get the Saga running, and it can kind of solo games on its own. We've got some nice tools to pair with it. If our opponents play some non-basic lands, they're going to have a real bad time versus these Wastelands. I don't think we want to dredge Life from the Loam this turn, because our mana's accounted for in the Urza Saga. We just want to play a Wasteland, hold up crop rotation and Saga activation. And if we draw something like an Exploration for our draw for turn, that's going to be very good. Preordain. Okay, our opponent might be on a more combo slanted deck. That's usually what Preordain means. They could be on Doomsday, which would be very bad for us. Because that deck can just clock us and kind of ignore what we're doing. We will not dredge that this turn. We drew a Maze of Ith. That's not great. Right, we've got a Wasteland. We've got a clock underway. City of Traitors. Okay, we're looking more like show and tell decks here. Interesting here. I think I think we're casting this crop rotation now to get ourselves a Karakas. Because if they have a thing that draws them a load of cards, if it's like a Griselbrand, they can do 2 sets of draws and find a counter spell for our crop rotation. We've got more chance of forcing it through before the show and tell resolves if they're getting Griselbrand. They have a counter spell, they should counter this. Alright, there's our Karakas. And this resolves, and we put in a Maze of Ith, I think. Omniscience. Okay, we are almost certainly dead here. A sneak attack. Okay. A Lotus Petal. Maybe we're not dead. Alright. Another Lotus Petal. Atraxa the Grand Unifier. We definitely don't want to Karakas this because they can just keep replaying it. So let's see what they found. None of those are Emrakul. There's a lot of cantrips there though, so we'll kind of just let our opponent do their thing for a little bit. And this Omniscience is going to get killed on our turn when we get our Haywire Might. So if we can survive this turn, that's alright. A Griselbrand. Sure. They can draw some cards. If they find an Emrakul, we're dead. There it is. And we go to the next game. Yeah, these sorts of decks can be somewhat challenging at times. I would like some Pyroblast, please. Oh wait, we don't have the Haywire Might main deck anyway, so that wouldn't have worked. Alright, so the Haywire Might comes in. And then what is the question? So Bojuka Bog isn't necessary here. Blast Zone isn't great. This is a Blood Moon deck, so we're probably going to want these Force of Vigors in. So what else? Karakas very good here. Boseiju good. Punishing Fire kills Magus of the Moon. So I think we have to leave the Punishing Fires in. But I don't think we need the Grove of the Grove of the Burnwillows are a green source. We can't really get rid of those. Maze of Ith is good against Griselbrand. Okay against... Well, not good against Griselbrand. It's okay against Griselbrand and Atraxa, but the damage they do isn't necessarily them attacking us, right? Tabernacle, that's not helping us out here. I think I'm quite tempted to get rid of at least one Maze of Ith, possibly 2. I just don't know when this is actually going to be helpful for us. Because Emrakul attacks, annihilates our permanents, then we untap it. We lose all our permanents. That's not really where I want to be. Gamble, crop rotation. I guess crop rotation is kind of awkward against them because they're a controlled deck with blue permission. Pithing Needle on sneak attack is good. Haywire Might is good. Surgical Extraction is one of those things that maybe we can mess with our opponent, but I don't think that's where I want to be. Sure. I think this is about where we're going to land on this one. I really don't like the Punishing Fire that much, but I think it's a necessity because of Magus of the Moon. We have a Pyroblast we can't cast, but we do have a turn... If we find any other land, we have a turn 2 Merit Lage, so I think we keep this. Let's hear it for any other land. Our opponent's mulling into 6. As a general rule, show and tell decks don't go off on turn 1 very often. But going off on turn 2 is certainly well within their possibility. So hopefully we can draw like a Taiga and have multiple options of what to do. Right, I think we'll play out our Thespian stage here. And pass the turn. We're looking to find ideally a Taiga so we can hold up Pyroblast or activate in Dark Depths. There's a Ponder from our opponent. That means we are almost certainly alive this turn. No Omniscience Emrakul. Another Exploration. That's not what I asked for, was it? So I think we are playing out the Dark Depths. We're playing out the Maze of Ith. And we could put the Life from Loam in the graveyard. But what I want to do is our opponent plays a red land. We copy it with Thespian stage so we at least have access to... Well, we can't even do that. We don't have enough mana. Yeah, we're 1 shy. That was a mistake. Should have just played the Life from the Loam. A lot of lands that don't tap for mana. There's a Lotus Petal. Are we dead? We're not dead. But now we definitely can't. Okay. Oh, this is panned out horribly for us. It's not really what we wanted. Yeah, if we'd have done that last turn, we might have been able to deploy something better this turn. I messed up on that one. That might cost us the round. They can cast a sneak attack and activate it this turn. Which our Pyroblast couldn't help anyway, so... Right, let's take this Life in the Loam. We found a land. Just the one, unfortunately. Is a good one. Not a red source, though. They could hardcast a Force of Will here. They could Force of Negation us. Force of Will, pitching Omniscience. Okay, it wasn't a very strong life from Loam, so... But they know we're missing land drops over there, so... Alright, our opponent has not found their A+B yet. Let's stretch life from Loam. Excellent. Our opponent is pausing in a way that makes me think they have surgical extraction. Right, they didn't do it. I like Karakas, Yavimaya, and Taiga. Can I have, please? We can have. Right, Taiga, this covers us from blue spells. Karakas covers us from a bunch of stuff our opponent can do. We could have got the exploration out here, but I don't think that's necessary. I'd rather keep the mana to play around days. A brainstorm, sure. So we could have hit this. Alright, our opponent's just scooping up there. I was going to say we could hit this cantrip, and maybe that protects us against sneak attack, and that's what we're supposed to do. Alright. Like, it worked, but that was more our opponent's deck's fail rate than anything we were doing. Alright, we'll just resubmit though. I think my logic was sound on the sideboarding. We have an answer to Magus of the Moon. We kind of have our core engine. Problem is, our deck, we've got 3 Pyroblasts. I'm not going to mulligan to Pyroblast. We just have to keep a good hand and hope that our opponent doesn't just bop us on turn 2. Or turn 1, in fact. Oh, wow. Lotus Petal Ponder. That's not where our opponent wants to be. If that's where your hand is, maybe you're supposed to... Maybe you're supposed to mulligan that one? If you have to burn a Lotus Petal. I guess I don't know the texture of our opponent's hand. Maybe they've got more Lotus Petals. And if they find the right thing, they can just go off right now. And they need to know what land to fetch or something. Alright, there's a Lotus Petal. A Magus of the Moon. So we have this covered. Provided that our opponent doesn't counterspell our thing. So, step 1, Thespian stage. If our opponent plays an island, we might have to wait so we can play around a daze. That does give our opponent the ability to do some other stuff. Right. Alright, they're just purely on this Magus plan. How easily can they protect this Magus plan? I'm going to play out this Windswept Heath. So the plan is, we Punishing Fire and then immediately can regrow it if it gets countered. Sorry, if it works, and then we can get our guy. Then we can kill like a follow-up guy, if there is one. The other option is to try and kill it end of turn here. And that dodges Force of Negation. Let's try this. Yeah, so there's a Force of Will. So we do need to find another Punishing Fire. How do we beat Magus of the Moon? I guess they might miss one of the copies, but if they exile 3 of our Punishing Fires, that is the game. We could have brought it in Minsk and Boo, but trying to bring in a 4-mana card in this matchup was bad. Yeah, we got done pretty hard. Just the Magus of the Moon plan. Pretty strong against us. So we've picked up our first loss in round 3. Are we supposed to wait till we find a Pyroblast? I don't think so. I think that's not really going to... We've got 3 Pyroblasts, maybe. Trying to draw 1 in our 3 before this kills us. Maybe we can take a couple more draw steps. But as soon as our opponent plays a blue source, it gets worse for us because they can just find the right thing they need to go off to counter both of our things. So I think we're right to go for it there and play around Force of Negation. I think that's probably the best spot we got. Sometimes you're just not going to get there though, just like them. Let's go to round 4. Yeah, this hand can do some stuff. We'll keep this. Our opponent might give enough information to see if Pithing Needle is going to be good for us or not. We have access to our combo here. A Ponder. Okay. They shuffled their Ponder, by the way. In case you were curious. Wasteland, that's not where we want to be right now. Play this one out. We're better off with a Mox Diamond or an Exploration here. I think the Mox Diamond is better in this situation. Just can't be dazed. So the other option there was to play the Grave of the Burnwillows and activate it. Right, so we need to discard one of our land cards. So we're going to get rid of this Wasteland. Now we'll try the exploration out. And then we can play this and hold up crop rotation. So our plan is to go down the Saga route and then pivot into a Dark Depths kill if the opportunity presents itself. Against the blue deck, we don't really always want to be trying to jam crop rotation. Blue-black, this feels like ninjas to me. I've definitely played against a ninja player who has these art lands as well. But no immediate play is interesting. Let's play a Thespian stage. Is there anything I want to Pithing Needle in this situation? I don't think so. Our opponent might well be dropping a Fairy Mastermind on our face in a second. It feels like what they might do here. There it is. Alright, so maybe we're some sort of blue-black mid-range. Sort of like draw-go type thing. No, we are on fairies. I was right. Oh, sorry, not fairies, ninjas. There's a brainstorm. Sure. Let's make it as a Saga token. So this can get snuffed out. Let's make one of these. Then with this on the stack, we're going to crop rotate away our as a Saga. Right, Force of Will. Pitching Brainstorm. Sure. So that was a 1-for-1 because our Saga's dying anyway. So they're cracking their polluted delta so we don't Pithing Needle them. But our Pithing Needle's already in hand, so. What are we getting here? We're getting an expedition map. I'm deploying our Maze of Ith. And we're going to go to attacks. And send in a large clown. The Maze of Ith here is going to be very irritating for our opponent. That's the plan at least. Shoulder's Edict. Each player sacrifices a creature token. Sorry, each opponent sacrifices a creature token. Okay, we'll sacrifice one that's not attacking. Only 3 damage. Our opponent's got 1 card in hand. We'll take the 2 damage rather than activate our Maze of Ith because we don't want our opponents putting a ninja and get some extra value that way. So our expedition map can find us Dark Depths. We can win the game with that in a couple of turns. There's another Ornithopter. That's what we want to see. Obviously the Ornithopters can chump block the Dark Depths token, but that's not really winning the game, is it? Opponent's got 1 card in hand. I'd rather take 2 than risk our opponent putting a ninja in here. If they put a ninja in, we untap it, and they don't actually get to do any ninja stuff with it. That's well worth 2 of my life points. That's a pretty nice one. Let's jam this Saga. Let's crack them. Do I think Opposition Agent is going to occur? I hope not. Alright. Let's get this Dark Depths out. Play Dark Depths. Let's activate this for making a Pithing Needle. Retrofit's Foundry is probably the scariest thing here. Let's go to attacks with our 3-3. Alright, they've scooped up to that. Excellent. So, ninjas. Retrofit's Foundry is a thing in our opponent's deck. Blue spells are very much a thing in our opponent's deck. They don't really care about their graveyard, so we can get rid of this Bojuka Bog. They do have legendary permanents, so Karakas will be useful here. Maze of Ith, also very useful. Tabernacle, pretty useful tying up their mana here, because they have to play a load of, like, dirty naught drops. I think we want Minsk and Boo. Endurance is surprisingly good here, because it basically blocks all of their threats. But the question is, what do we want for this? I think we are boarding out our crop rotations. Pithing Needle on Retrofit's Foundry is good. Expiration is fine. Manabond, again, is probably fine. We find 3 more cards if we want these endurances. Blast Zone is good. Boseiju. Well, Blast Zone is actually not that good, right? Because we have to put it up to 3 or 4 counters to really get it going, and we just got better ways of killing their guys. I think I'd rather have an endurance than that Blast Zone. We need Boseiju in case they have a back to basics plan, but it also kills Retrofit's Foundry, so that's useful. Do you want to trim on our Dark Depths? I don't think that's where I want to be. What are we looking at cutting here? Maybe we're less all in on the gamble, so we can take out the gamble. And we've got 1 more cut. Maybe it's the Manabonds, because we're trying to play around with Punishing Fire and Pyroblast and Endurance. So let's try that. We've got Grove of the Burnwillows combo. Oh, we could have brought it out in Wasteland, actually, in this matchup. We have Maze of Ith. I think this is one as a keeper. Leyline in the Void. Yep, that's a pretty good one. We did bring in Force of Vigor. So if we use our Punishing Fire, it's going to be a 1-shot. And there's an Ornithopter. Does our opponent have room for Wastelands in their deck? That is certainly a question we're going to be asking in the very near future. This Tabernacle is going to be pretty tasty and taxing our opponent's mana sources. They won't be able to deploy a guy next turn. Have fun, opponent. They can't deploy a ninja this turn. They're paying for one of their Ornithopters, the other one dies. Tabernacle's already getting some value. They have a Wasteland, that's certainly annoying for us. But we've got a Maze of Ith that we can deploy soon, which is going to annoy. Dark Depths, that's something for later. Let's play another card that doesn't actually produce mana in our land slot. I do enjoy that lands is such an unusual deck. Just these uncounterable answers to stuff. But as you've seen, we can lose very easily to a Magus of the Moon type effect. Right, we're not going to Maze of Ith this Ornithopter. We wait to see if they put in a guy. They put in a guy with Maze of Ith it. They have Ingenious Infiltrator. Say no to Ingenious Infiltrator. Now next turn, if they've got another ninja guy, they can, if we go to stop the Infiltrator, they can flip it into another guy, which is a real thing. We're supposed to play here. I think we're supposed to play our Grove. Right, so if our opponent pays this Ornithopter and they drop a land, maybe they're getting there with their ninjas. Let's see. It makes me feel they do have a ninja in hand if they're paying for both of these. Do they have a follow-up blue source? Because all of their ninjas are basically require blue mana to come into play. Right, so it's a blue source. Our opponent has to do this first. Alright, we'll say no to Ingenious Infiltrator. And then our opponent will replace the Ornithopter with a ninja? Or are we okay? We're okay. Choices, choices, choices. We're still 2 cards away from doing our thing. I don't really think we want to be Urza Sagaing for tokens here. I think we play out the Thespian stage. And get ourselves towards the combo. This turn we can Punishing Fire the Ornithopter after they've spent mana on it. Alright, so the Ingenious Infiltrator's there. Let's give them a life. They're still at 20 life, which is important. Say no to Ornithopters. So Maze has this checked quite handily. If they've got a guy, they can flip it out here though. Alright. Changing Outcast. Sure. Underground Sea. Do I want to Wasteland our opponent? Another Punishing Fire. Okay, we'll let our opponent pay for their thing. Are we Wastelanding this turn? We're just playing the Dark Depths. Let's play the Dark. Wasteland our opponent. Tax more of their resources. They've still got quite a lot of mana over there, so mana's not really what this game is about right now. I think we'll play the Dark Depths here. We can represent the kill next turn. We let them pay for their Outcast, then we'll Punish and Fire it. Because this is a ninja, which is well worth paying for. And pay for that one. This does gain our opponent 1 life, which means Marillage won't kill him in 1 swing. But that's not really what this game is about. That's just how we're going to actually put the W on the board officially. But the way we're actually winning this game is by having Tabernacle and Maze of Ith in play. Did they find another ninja? They did not. Alright. They might have something like a Brazen Borrower in their hand. Pay for their Ingenious Infiltrator. Sure. It's got a case of, if they're not playing stuff out, what do they actually have in hand, right? It has to be some kind of Brazen Borrower type thing. Right? Or a counter spell. But they haven't been countering our Punishing Fires. I think they would counter the one on the Changing Outcast. Let's try and do the thing. How good is a 2020 Indestructible? We'll not pay, this is indestructible, so it doesn't die to Tabernacle. Dress down? No. Brazen Borrower, I feel it. Shouldred's Edict. Sure. So they're in response to the Saga, so we can't make a token. And sacrifice a token instead. A shrewd play, but our plan here is to... We can go and get ourselves an Expedition map next turn. And we've got another Dark Depths in hand. part of the power of having the 4 copies of Dark Depths in the deck. So our opponent is paying for their little guy again. If we can find something like Yavimaya, that really helps us out with our mana here. I suppose what we should be doing here is making a token and blocking and then Maze of Ithing this. So they have no way of flipping an ninja in. We'll do that next turn. Got Taiga here. Let's make a guy. This stops our opponent from being able to do any ninja shenanigans. So we can always block. Yep, this will go away. An expedition map. We'll play out our Dark Depths here, so we can hold up our mana. And then it's over to our opponent. Bit of a slow grinding win, but we expected a few of those. A dress down. In the end step. That's interesting. That stops their ninja having ninja abilities. So we don't need to Maze of Ith at this turn. We take the 2. And then we can hold up the maze if they put a guy in. We don't care about taking 2 damage, we just care about them drawing an extra card. A Dalthy Voidwalker. The leyline doesn't care. The leyline means that the cards won't go into the Dalthy, so that's fine. Also, this has got the dress down on it at the moment. Let's crack this. Let's get ourselves a Thespian stage. Certainly not happy to see this Pyroblast. Kind of makes me want to wasteland our opponent off of this mana a little bit. So I have to pay 2 blue, but we can just hold this if we need to. Play the Thespian stage. Put our opponent to the test. Right, paying for their Infiltrator, paying for their Dalthy Voidwalker. Not unexpected. So no 2 additional cards. So we could hold up. We could either make it now and try and dodge a Brazen Borrower. So we can do it now and not dodge the Brazen Borrower. Or we could wait a turn and have the Pyroblast up. But they've already shown us Shoulder's Edict is kind of what they're aiming with. So I think we just go for it here again. If this doesn't work, then we're going to have to get pretty grindy. This won't kill our opponent in one swing either. Which is 2 of each of these combo pieces gone. They've let us untap. We don't need to pay because it's indestructible. Tabernacle says destroy. They can play a dress down now. Brazen Borrower, another Shoulder's Edict. The dress down forces us to pay. If that's what they have. Petty Theft. Counter target spell if it's blue. Our opponent could well have some more counter magic in hand. Alright, let's scoop into that one. We got there. That was a bit of a slow, grindy one, but we did pull it out in the end. And we are now 3-1 going to the final round to see if we can get the 4-1. Alright, our opening hand is an awkward one. It doesn't have any green mana. I think we're going to mulligan this one. I think it might be the first mulligan we've done, actually. Alright. We can keep this. Get rid of one of our many life from Loams. We can lead out on a cheeky Verdant Catacombs. And then we can decide if we're going into Saga, Loam, or Wastelanding our opponent. That answers that question. Decks that lead out on Basic Mountain include Painter. So that's something to keep an eye out on. That Boseiju is very nice in that situation. Right, we'll crack this. We're going to get a basic forest here. I think that's the safest play. We'll go and get this back. We might need to Boseiju something soon. Because there might be some sort of red prison deck that just couldn't do their thing on turn 1. And this will give us an answer to Blood Moon. Our opponent knows exactly what our deck is at this point. I would say. An Urza Saga. Okay. Into a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Sure. So we can blow up Fable and their Saga this turn if we want to. Yeah, I'll dredge that. So, we can Wasteland their Saga and Boseiju their Fable. Is that what we want to do? We're definitely Wastelanding the Saga. I think that's really important here. We are the control. So, step 1 is this. The question is, are we Life from the Loaming now or Boseijuing the Fable? I don't think we need to Boseiju the Fable right now. I think it's better for us if we get back some lands here. I would love to find an exploration, to be honest. Alright, let's see how many cards our opponent discards here. Might get an indication of what sort of... 2 lightning bolts are gone. Okay. They've got another basic mountain. An onslaught, what a very nice one. Alright, Soulguide Lantern. Sure. We have 2 Life of Loam, so we can kind of like loop them around a little bit. I'm going to bash a little bit here. What do we want from our... I think I want to crop rotate our... There's a Saga that's dying anyway. Do you want Bojuka Bog? Sorry, not Bojuka Bog. Do you want Blast Zone? I don't think so. I think we want Tabernacle here. And this tutors us the Pithing Needle, which we can put on to Grindstone. And we still have 1 mana available to us. I don't think we want to cast Life from the Loam just yet. Although if we cast Life from the Loam now, our opponent is more likely to Soulguide Lantern, which allows us potentially to draw a Life from the Loam to do some Boseiju shenanigans in the near future, with Life from the Loam recurring it. Taiga. I suspect this gets the Soulguide Lantern crap from our opponent. No, they just let us have it. Interesting. Right, we can go to clean up. Don't think we need this Verdant Catacombs. Alright, so our opponent has to pay for this guy. He kind of pays for himself. But we've got the answer for the Fable because this is an enchantment creature, so we can blow it up before it gets to start activating. We already have the combo covered. We just need to hold their creatures back, which is something we're very good at doing as a general rule. Yep. Take 2 damage, that's fine. A Painter's Servant, sure. This gives them access to Pyroblast, which is a pretty big deal. Red Elemental Blast straight away. Cracking a Soulguide Lantern so we can't ever do that again. Opponent's got 2 cards in hand. Alright. Do we think our opponent has a Red Blast? We're now incentivized to kill this Painter because it stops them. Oh yeah, our opponent's got us in a good spot here, unfortunately. I think we jam this Urza Saga. Are we supposed to take out this Reflection of Kiki Jiki? Or are we supposed to take out this Painter? Or is the Reflection we take it out right now? If it's the Painter, we can wait, potentially, because they can't Pyroblast a Boseiju activation. It's tricky. 2 cards in our opponent's hand. They haven't done any tutoring. This is something we can take out using Punishing Fires when the time comes. There's a lot of options we have before us. Do we Boseiju the Reflection now? This is a 5. This is a big amount of damage. I think we do have to take out the Reflection here. Alright. And that's our turn. We don't have any way of accelerating our land drops, which is a little bit annoying. But we can start making some Maze of Saga tokens and hope they don't have the Blast for the Needle and the Grindstone. Goblin Engineer. Okay, that finds the Grindstone. Oh, Fraction Dragon Engine. They're going that route. Sure. So, be a good turn to draw Bojuka Bog or Crop Rotation. Because this is going to be a lot of damage. This is 4 a turn. And as well, they get to draw 3 cards, which means it's only a matter of time until they just get to win the game. Is this a Fury? Yes, this is a hardcast Fury. Sure. Alright. Our opponent's got us on the old beatdown plan here. A little bit late, Mr. Exploration. Opponent's also had an awful lot of basics this one, which is a bit upsetting for us. So, play Exploration. Play Urza Saga. We can't really use our Waterlogged Grove yet. Do you want this Wasteland in play? Do you want this Waterlogged Grove in play? Do you want a Grove or a Taiga in play? I think we want the Grove. So we have to chump block the Fury with an Urza Saga token, which is not really where I want to be. Lotus Petal doesn't do that much. I suppose it gives them something to weld, right? But the thing they weld in won't have haste, so it won't matter that much. Right, they're using their token there instead. Okay. We feel very dead here. That's how I describe this situation right now. Let's make a Saga construct. They got Pyroblast or a Bolt. They got a Lightning Bolt. So this is 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, we don't have anything like a Tabernacle, not that it would matter with the amount of land they've got. So we can make 2 construct tokens this turn. So we can block the 2 biggest, but that's still lethal damage. So we're going to need more than that. Let's see what our draw step finds us. A Maze of Ith. So this makes us a construct token. Then we have a Maze of Ith. So we block this, we block this. Then we bounce this, we still take 2. So that's not good enough. The Mox Diamond here. And we'll discard this Wasteland. And this gets the ability to make a construct. So I think we play our Grove. We draw a card from our Grove. It's an expedition map, that doesn't help. We can Maze of Ith. No, they have us here. Oakley dokley. Not the bestest. So, Collect a Roof. Looks great here. Haywire Might looks pretty good here. Saga Lantern, Graphics Cage also good. Endurance and Force of Vigor seem pretty good here too. Pyroblast is one that some people bring in, but I don't think it's great. Because if they're naming blue, sure, but if they don't have Painter in play, then you've got this card that does nothing in the matchup. And it's not really how I like to operate. Karakas, it does nothing. Bojuka Bog does good things. Boseiju does good things. Maze of Ith is pretty reasonable. All the Wastelands and stuff are pretty good. Maze of Ith, Blood Moon is something our opponent might also be bringing in here. It does hurt them, but it hurts us more. Sylvan Library, Life from the Loam. I think we want less of this sort of effect, so less gambles. Maybe we're less on Life from the Loam here. Endurance is mainly for ourselves, but our opponent also uses their graveyard as well. So it's kind of double duty there. Do we need 3 Maze of Ith, or can we trim 1? That's a tough choice. I don't think we can. I don't think we want the Manabond necessarily. No, we can get like the Dream Manabond hand, but I don't think it's worth trying to play in for that. Mox Diamond is pretty bad here, actually. Just gives them some really good fuel to weld stuff in and out with. Don't want to get into that sort of situation. 2 more cards got to go. What are they? Probably want to keep our Dark Depths combo. Maybe we can trim 1 Maze of Ith. And then what are we trimming for the last one? Probably one of the expedition maps. We don't need 2. We're boarding all these other things we'll find. We'll try like this. What is our opening hand going to look like? No. I think we're going to mulligan that one. Doesn't really do anything. Alright, this one is a keep. What goes back here? We're a bit slow getting the green mana here. Is the only issue with this hand. I think the library goes back. Because we might need to pitch cast Endurance to get there. But we can start off with a Saga. And go into Expedition map on turn 3. To find our green source. A little bit slow. But it finds our green source, which puts Collect Roof into play. Obviously our deck's got a lot of mana sources, and we have just cut the 4 Mox Diamonds. We do have less mana sources here. Great Furnace. And a Grindstone. Alright. So I'm probably going to turn 2 or 3 us here. That's Thespian stage. There's a Lotus Petal. Imagine if we had a green mana, we could just drop the guy. There's a Painter's Servant. Okay. Not looking spectacular. Surgical Extraction, you say? Activate this for some mana. Get a Pithing Needle instead of the Expedition map here. Do we think Endurance is going to be enough here? We do need a green source to play this game. We'll get Expedition map. We'll crack Expedition map. We're hoping this Endurance buys us a turn. We could get a Yavimaya here, which makes a lot of our subsequent draws way better. But it's bad against the Blood Moon plan if they're on it. It's got to be this, isn't it? What does crop rotation get us here? We could crop rotate for Tabernacle. That doesn't really help us here. Interesting. Let's try an exploration up. Play this Bojuka Bog. Zap our opponent's graveyard. And let's hope this Endurance can carry the day here. Alright. Endurance into Collect a Roof, please win us the game. Grind us in the upkeep. They are. In goes my guys. And then we will evoke this, having to pitch the crop rotation. Drawing a Wasteland would be beautiful right now. We can protect ourselves with Surgical Extraction. If they try and extract something. Can I draw? Did not draw the thing we wanted. Collector Roof. Dark Depths. We have a 20/20 next turn. We shut off our opponent's win condition and their only red source that they currently have. So they don't have red mana here. They have a pitch cast Fury. What can we do about that? Nothing. And then we're dead. Yep. We can call that one now, I think. Yeah, we got painted pretty hard at the end there. So we ended up with a 3-2. We lost to two red decks, basically. One of them, they beat us with a Blood Moon and counter spells for our things that remove the Blood Moon. And then the last one, we lost to Painter just doing Painter things. Like, they had the turn 3 kill. Then they also had a Fury to get rid of our Collector Roof. So, pretty bad. If this was a Null Rod, we would have been able to cast it earlier, and it would have been more difficult for them to interact with because they have Furies and Lightning Bolts and things. Now, what I will say is that if we have artifacts in our graveyard, our opponent can then weld the things through, but we're trying to deal with graveyards, we're trying to deal with little creatures. So, I think the Collector Roof should be a Null Rod. Let's talk about the deck. So, obviously this deck is pretty decent, just want a challenge, so that's good. I like the fact that we have 4 Dark Depths, so we have the ability to close a game a lot better than some of the other lands lists. We don't have a Ghost Quarter, so we can't do the full destroy all your permanents plan with the Life of Loam. We're sort of eschewing that plan so that we can just get our opponent dead with Dark Depths, and that makes sense to me. We are obviously quite cold to Blood Moon effects, and if the deck that's playing the Blood Moon effect is a blue deck, they can counter our answer. Now, Mages of the Moon, our answer for that is Punishing Fire, and if they answer that, then we're dead, right? That's what happened against the Sneak and Show deck. Now, we could play Minsk and Boo in those matchups, and I think that's correct, because we just need our forest, and then we can cast it. Now, the problem, in that matchup, we didn't have access to our forest. Now, we could have drawn it, we could have drawn an expedition map to find our forest, so we would have had outs if Minsk and Boo was in our deck. Now, whether or not we can get to them before our opponent has another counterspell ready, I'm not necessarily sure, but it's something we could have actually played to. So I think I did sideboard wrong in hindsight in that particular round. Even though Minsk and Boo seems like it's not going to be great against Sneak and Show, it's just, you have to do a lot of things to beat Blood Moon sometimes, and that's one of them. As for the sideboard, as I said a minute ago, I think the Collector Roof should be a Null Rod for the purposes of what our opponents are probably doing. I think Collector Roof dives to a lot of the same stuff that Null Rod does, like Prismatic Endings, your Abrupt Decays, or whatever. But against Painter, it's going to be a lot more difficult for them to remove. And I think Red Painter is going to be a little bit tricky here. Against Blue Painter, a Collector Roof and a Null Rod are pretty much similarly. I think the Collector Roof is slightly easier for them to remove because they have Dismembers if they want them. So I think, and they got bounce spells that hit both. So again, I think Null Rod is, again, slightly better there. As for the rest of the deck, I don't really have any comments or changes that I would run. I think there's certainly an option to run another green source in the deck. Quite how you fit that in, I'm not. I guess we did board out the Mox Diamonds in the last round, which kind of came back to bite us a little bit. Honestly, wouldn't be completely opposed to having a second forest as an option. We never did the gamble thing for the Life of Loam, but I used to do that back in the day, and it's very strong, so no problems with that. In terms of what we have in the main deck, because we have a Boseiju in the main deck, we don't really need the Haywire Might in the main, so I think that makes sense. Double Expedition map, we do like to find our lands, so I guess that makes sense. Sylvan Library is a very good thing to do if your graveyard's locked down. Basically, as expected with this deck, the games that we won felt like we were always winning them, and the games that we lost kind of felt like we were always losing them. Now, we could have beaten the Painter deck if they didn't have the Fury, but they did, so we got clowned. We do have some reasonable tools for this. I think the endurance being able to defend us against Painter, but I can't imagine our Painter matchup being particularly good. They have a decent chunk of basics. I'll be interested to play the main deck Sphere of Resistance plan that I've seen some lands players playing. That's certainly an interesting one. But yeah, we have Punishing Fire, which is pretty good against some stuff. I'm not convinced that necessarily Punishing Fire is where you want to be in this current format. I think the format is pretty combo-y. If you look at like the top decks, you've got Reanimator and 8 cast. And Punishing Fire hits it kind of hits one creature from 8 cast, right? It hits Emery, which is an important creature for sure. But it can hit like the big Thopter, but that already draws them 2 cards. And if that's sort of up and running, then we're probably in trouble already. I'm not sure how this matches up against the decks that are really good in the format right now, which is why I think the Sphere of Resistance build might just be better, because Sphere of Resistance is way better versus 8 cast because it makes all their 0 drops expensive. It's way better against Reanimator than something like Punishing Fire plan. And some of the combo decks are just kind of ignoring us, whether that's Cephalid Breakfast, which can be a bit tricky, I would imagine, because they can just make some guys and go off. Now, we do have Punishing Fire, but they can combo through it if they've got the right stuff going on, and 1 counterspell is all they require. I don't know. I'd be more intrigued to play that build. Also, if you're playing that build, you can play basically a mono green build, which gives you access to more basics, but you will need to find a way of reliably removing Mages of the Moon, I suppose, if you're doing that. Anyway, as for this deck feels good. If you want to play some lands, there's nothing wrong with this build at all. Every deck's going to have different matchup spreads depending on like the cards you change with it, whether you're changing this sort of stuff or whatever. And this is definitely going to be very good against certain spreads of matchups. Some of them we played today, and some of the ones that it's not so good against we also played. So, such is life sometimes. Alright, not much more to say about this one. I hope you enjoyed this league. A little bit of midweek meta deck for you. If you're still here, like, comment, subscribe. These cost you nothing and they really help me out. And if you know anyone who's interested in Legacy, or you're on Reddit a fair bit, why not share my content there? It really helps me out. And if you want to financially help me, you can have a look at the Patreon link below, or you can contact me through the Discord link below to send me a donation deck and we can sort that out for you as well. Alright, thank you very much for watching and goodbye.